Previously on Down in the Dungeon, Tales of Wizards and Worms. In the shadowed streets of Drakestide Cove, our heroes split their forces to uncover the darkness threatening their city. While Malveth and Kithri ventured to the Temple District, Nali led Krothar and Littlehorn into the city's seedier quarters, where whispered rumours spoke of strange happenings and mysterious disappearances. But their investigation drew unwanted attention. In a marketplace turned battlefield, they found themselves surrounded by the enigmatic circle of the Whispering Shadow, Warlocks in Viridian masks, led by the mysterious sharp-dressed man. What began as a simple gathering of information erupted into a desperate battle for survival. Through steel and spell, our heroes fought against overwhelming odds. The marketplace ran red with blood as they faced down 5 deadly warlocks, their every move watched by the sharp-dressed man from his perch above. Victory came at a heavy price, leaving the marketplace in ruins and our heroes exhausted. But before they could savour their triumph, the sharp-dressed man left them with an ominous warning of an ancient enemy, one that had already claimed the lives of their predecessors in the company. Now, surrounded by the city guard and trapped by a wall of magical thorns, our heroes face new challenges. What secrets lie buried in the shadows of Drakestide Cove? What ancient evil could strike such fear into the heart of the company itself? Let us return to our tale, as steel meets shadow and destiny unfolds. As chaos unfolds in the marketplace, we turn our gaze to the other half of our intrepid band. Kithri and Malveth, having spent the day combing through the affluent districts of Drakestide Cove, now find themselves in the hallowed grounds of the Temple District. The air here is thick with incense and whispered prayers, a stark contrast to the bustle of the city beyond. Our duo has encountered little more than vague rumours and exaggerated tales, until Malveth's keen eyes spot a familiar sight, a small, unassuming shrine dedicated to the Raven Queen.
Kithri, look, even here, in this den of commerce and corruption, my lady maintains her vigil.
Another dead end, you mean? We've wasted enough time on wild goose chases today.
But Malveth is already moving towards the shrine, drawn by an unseen force. As they approach, a solitary figure emerges from the shadows, a priestess, her eyes deep and knowing.
Welcome, children of the mortal realm. What brings you to the threshold of she who spins the threads of fate?
We seek wisdom, honoured sister, and perhaps a moment of connection with our Dark Lady.
The priestess nods, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She begins to prepare for a ritual, her movements graceful and practiced. Malveth joins her without hesitation, his own gestures mirroring hers with the ease of long familiarity.
Would you join us, my friend? Sometimes the answers we seek lie not in words, but in silence and reverence.
Kithri hesitates, her practical nature warring with the undeniable pull of the moment. We see the conflict play across her face as she watches Malveth and the priestess in their silent communion.
I'm not sure I belong in this, Malveth. Death and fate, they're your domain, not mine.
Death comes for us all, Kithri. And fate? Well, isn't that what brought us here, to this very moment?
Something in Malveth's words seems to resonate with Kithri. With a deep breath, she steps forward, joining the circle. As the ritual begins, the air around them seems to thicken, the shadows deepening despite the afternoon sun.
Raven Queen, mistress of death and fate, hear our call. Guide our steps through the tapestry of destiny and grant us the wisdom to see beyond the veil of mortality.
As the invocation continues, we see a change come over Kithri. Her usual sharp edges seem to soften, her eyes closing as she allows herself to be swept up in the ritual. For a moment, just a moment, the cynical warrior and the death priest stand united, touched by something greater than themselves. As the ritual reaches its crescendo, the air in the small shrine seems to thicken, the shadows deepening despite the afternoon sun. Suddenly, Kithri's eyes roll back, her body going rigid as she's gripped by a vision from beyond.
Steady her, sister. The Raven Queen speaks through her now.
We see through Kithri's eyes as the vision unfolds. A cloaked figure emerges from the company tower, their face hidden but their movements betraying a deep anxiety.
A betrayer, one of our own. They're meeting someone.
The scene shifts, revealing another hooded figure. As they reach out to hand over a small orb, we catch a glimpse of their hand, a grotesque patchwork of mismatched skin and bone.
By the gods, their hand. It's stitched together like some nightmarish quilt.
The vision continues, revealing more horrifying details. The stitched woman's voice cuts through the ethereal haze of the vision.
The Order of the Eclipsed Hand would be blessed to have a neophyte of your caliber. You are wasted on this band of fools and lackluster heroes.
As quickly as it began, the vision fades. Kithri gasps, her eyes snapping open as she returns to the present. She stumbles, caught by Malveth's steady hands.
Malveth, I saw terrible things.
Tell us, Kithri, what did the Raven Queen show you?
Kithri recounts her vision, her words tumbling out in a rush. As she finishes, a heavy silence falls over the shrine.
Sister, have you heard of this Order of the Eclipsed Hand?
Whispers, nothing more. Until recently. A cult that has lurked in the shadows of our fair city for decades, now bold enough to step into the light.
And you're only mentioning this now?
We deal in death, child, not rumor and speculation. But there have been incidents, grave robberies, small undead attacks.
Distractions, perhaps, for something larger?
Indeed, each attack coincides with thefts, relics, artifacts of power stolen from across the city.
As the implications of the priestess's words sink in, we see the determination harden in Kithri and Malveth's eyes. They exchange a look.
We need to warn the others. If there's a traitor in the company...
Agreed, but we must tread carefully. We don't know how deep this corruption runs.
As our heroes prepare to leave the sanctuary of the shrine, the air grows heavy with unspoken questions. Who is the traitor in their midst? What dark purpose drives the Order of the Eclipsed Hand? And how will Kithri and Malveth navigate the treacherous waters ahead, unsure of who they can trust? And now let's pause for a brief moment. The dice are in motion, but before they land, let's take a quick detour to talk about how you can help keep the adventure alive.
Even the bravest adventurers need to rest. But while our heroes catch their breath, you can help keep their journey alive. Step beyond the story and join the adventure at daysofourdice.com, your portal to all things Days of Our Dice. Explore our treasure trove of exclusive merch, support the show on Ko-Fi or Patreon, and help forge the next chapter of this epic saga. Your support keeps the dice rolling, the fireballs flying, and the legends growing. So whether you grab a shirt, sip a Fireball blend coffee, or simply spread the word, know that you're part of the story. Now, let's get back to the adventure.
The scene now shifts back to the group of Krothar, Nali, and Little Horn. As the dust settles on the battlefield that was once a thriving marketplace, our battered heroes find themselves surrounded by a ring of steel. The city guard, their weapons drawn and faces grim, eye the trio with a mixture of suspicion and awe.
In the name of Drakestide Cove, explain yourselves. What in the nine hells happened here?
Nali, ever the quick thinker, steps forward, her hands raised in a placating gesture.
Captain, if you'll allow me to explain, we were ambushed by members of the Circle of the Whispering Shadow.
The Circle? Here, in broad daylight?
I'm afraid so, but see for yourself.
With a graceful motion, Nali gestures to the fallen Warlocks, their bodies adorned with the unmistakable regalia of the notorious criminal organization.
We did what we had to do, to protect the innocent.
The guard captain's eyes widen as he takes in the scene. The fallen Warlocks, the destruction, and the three battered but standing heroes before him. His gaze lingers on Krothar's imposing form, now understanding the source of such devastation.
By the gods, you three did all this?
It's at this moment that Little Horn steps forward, her voice ringing clear despite her small stature.
We did, sir, and what's more, we're members of the company. We were simply doing our duty to protect this city.
At the mention of the company, a ripple of whispers runs through the assembled guards. The captain's demeanor shifts almost instantly, his suspicion melting into something akin to respect.
The company? Well, why didn't you say so earlier? Looks like we owe you a debt of gratitude for dealing with these scum.
We're just glad we could help, Captain, though I fear this may be just the beginning.
I fear you might be right. We've been after the Circle for months. This is, well, it's a big break.
The captain sheathes his weapon, a signal quickly followed by his men. The tension in the air dissipates, replaced by a sense of cautious relief.
We'll need a full report, of course. If you could come by headquarters when you're cleaned up a bit. We have many questions, and I suspect you might have some of your own.
Aye, that we do.
As the guards begin to disperse, our heroes exchange meaningful glances. They've survived the battle, but the war, it seems, is far from over.
Well, that went better than expected. But something tells me our troubles are just beginning.
Agreed. And I can't shake the feeling we're missing something important.
As our battered heroes approach the towering silhouette of the company headquarters, the setting sun casts long shadows across the cobblestone streets. But it's not the encroaching darkness that gives them pause. No, it's the small figure waiting by the entrance, a rectangular piece of paper clutched in their tiny hands.
Hold up, everyone. Looks like we have a welcoming committee.
The child, face partially hidden by a threadbare hood, approaches Nali with an eerie sense of purpose. Without a word, they extend the paper, an invitation, ornate and embossed with gold leaf.
Lady Cordelia Blackthorne cordially invites the esteemed members of the company to Corvus Manor for an evening of drinks and entertainment.
Ooh, fancy. But wait, who's Lady Cordelia? And how did she know we'd be here?
Little Horn turns to question the child messenger, but in a blink the young courier has vanished into the lengthening shadows.
I don't like it. Smells like a trap.
As our trio enters the tower, debating the mysterious invitation, they're greeted by the weathered face of Jack Moonstrider. His eyes narrow at the sight of the embossed paper.
Ah, I see Lady Blackthorne has extended her hospitality. Tread carefully, my friends. I knew her late father, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree in that family.
You're not suggesting we decline, are you?
On the contrary, I'll be joining you. Some doors only open for the Blackthorns, and we might need to step through this one.
The tension in the room shifts as Kithri and Malveth burst in, their faces etched with concern. They quickly recount Kithri's disturbing vision, the hooded betrayer, the chilling encounter with the stitched woman, and the ominous name, the Order of the Eclipsed Hand.
Jack, this order. They're planning something big, and they've got hooks in the company.
At the mention of the Order's name, Jack's eyebrow arches, a flicker of recognition, or is it fear, passing across his face.
The Order of the Eclipsed Hand. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time, and I'd hoped never to hear it again.
You know of them?
Oh yes, they're the stuff of nightmares, my friends, and if they're involved, well, our little drinks party at Corvus Manor just became a lot more interesting.
As the gravity of the situation settles over the group, questions hang heavy in the air. What connection does Lady Blackthorne have to these unfolding events? Who is the traitor that aided in the disappearance of the previous denizens of the very tower they now stand in? And what dark plans does the Order of the Eclipsed Hand have for Drakestide Cove? As the night begins, the heroes gather around a modest feast, the day's harrowing events weighing heavily on their minds. The clinking of cutlery and low murmurs of conversation are suddenly interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. The room falls silent, tension thick in the air.
Did anyone invite a guest?
Malveth and Kithri exchange a glance, their heightened senses picking up an unusual sound.
Do you hear that? The beating of wings.
The sound of many wings, as if a flock of birds has descended upon our doorstep.
Jack's eyes widen, his face paling as he too hears the ethereal sound. With trepidation, Krothar moves to open the door, his massive frame tensed for action. As the door swings wide, a figure stands silhouetted against the night sky. A black tabaxi, dressed like a gunslinger from some far-off desert realm, his face hidden behind an expressionless porcelain mask.
Who in the nine hells are you?
But it's Jack's reaction that catches everyone off guard. The usually composed mage stumbles back, his face a mask of shock and disbelief.
Evander Pennington, but you're dead. I heard the whispering shadows got to you after you left the company.
Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, old friend.
The masked tabaxi steps into the light, his presence seeming to fill the room with an otherworldly chill.
The Raven Queen has other plans for me. She has sent me to aid you in your pursuits.
At the mention of the Raven Queen, Malveth, Kithri, and the Shadowkai twins exchange meaningful glances. The weight of divine intervention settles over the room like a heavy cloak.
The Raven Queen herself? But why? What's so important about our mission?
And how do we know we can trust you?
Trust is earned, not given. But know this. The threads of fate are tangling in ways even the Raven Queen finds concerning. Your path and mine have become intertwined.
As our heroes grapple with this new development, the air in the room seems to thicken with possibility and danger. And so our heroes stand face to face with a ghost from the past, as the threads of destiny pull ever tighter around Drakestide Cove. What role does the mysterious Evander Pennington play in this unfolding drama? What dark secrets await within the walls of Corvus Manor? And what grave circumstances have prompted the Raven Queen herself to intervene in mortal affairs? The shadows grow longer in our fair city, dear listeners, and ancient powers stir from their slumber. Join us next time for another thrilling episode of Down in the Dungeon, Tales of Wizards and Worms, where divine intervention meets mortal intrigue, and every answer only leads to darker questions. For in Drakestide Cove, even the dead have roles to play in the grand performance yet to come. Before we close tonight's tale, we wish to share words that come not from our story, but from our hearts. This episode is dedicated to our dear friend and cherished colleague, Hades Plantagenet. Not only was Hades there from the very first die roll of Down in the Dungeon, but he was one of the original players whose adventures around the gaming table inspired these tales. As one of our founding dungeon delvers, Hades brought Evander Pennington to life first through his remarkable role-playing at the table, and then again through his masterful work behind the scenes of our show. Though Hades has crossed into the realm of the Shadowfell, where he now stands beside the Raven Queen herself, his legacy lives on in every word we speak, every story we tell. The adventures of Evander Pennington, born from countless hours of gameplay and transformed through Hades' artistry, will continue, carried forward by our crew in loving tribute to the remarkable soul who created him. For those who knew him, Hades was more than a crew member or player. He was a light in the darkness, a friend in times of need, and an inspiration to all who shared his passion for bringing imagination to life. His laughter still echoes in our recording studio, just as it once filled our gaming room. His spirit lives on in our hearts, and his memory will forever be woven into the fabric of our tales. Rest well, dear friend. May your next great adventure be as boundless as your imagination.